Okay, welcome. This is the local properties, which we are having our 30 days business and investment challenge happening from the 1st of October down to the 30th of October 2025. And today we'll be talking on the topic business and investment, an introduction to business and investment. So, when we talk about business, what do we mean? Business involves buying and selling goods, services, ideas, time, or whatever within a short period of time with the sole aim of making profit. And now, what relates it to investment? Investment has to do with a long period of time. It can still involve buying and selling. For example, shares of companies. That is actually investment, not business. A lot of people have missed the line by thinking that they are into investment, not knowing they are into business. And a lot of people have missed the line by thinking they are into business, not knowing they are into investment. And these are the practical steps. Investment involves putting resources like time, money, assets for a long period of time with the sole aim of growing wealth. And the only way money multiplies is investment, not business. Money can grow through business. So investment involves putting a lot of resources like time, energy, prayer, money, assets into something that can multiply for within a long period of time with the sole aim of growing wealth, capacity, relationships. That is what investment means. The only way your money can multiply is through investment and not business. A lot of people have made such kind of mistakes before. In every money that comes into your hand, there's what we call the seed and there's what we call the food. Or sometimes some versions will put it as fruit. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10, you're going to see how the Bible emphasized much on that. You see, you do not eat your seed, you plant your seed, and you do not plant your food, you eat your food. A lot of people have done that kind of mistake before, and it has drastically brought them down. When they don't understand seasons, they end up putting themselves in shame. Now we have examples of businesses. Now we can have the business center. Maybe you're a caterer, that is a business. You have a shop, a retail shop, that is a business. But now when we talk about investing, investment, examples of investment, we have the stock, we have the federal government savings bond, we have the ETFs, we have the real estate. All these are investments. They are not business. And you see, you should never be too greedy in business because some people they would like to charge more, most especially when you are into something like business center or you are selling retail. And then some persons will come, they will dress fine, and you just want to charge them more. They might not necessarily be bothered paying that kind of amount at that moment. But when they leave, they end up going back, and when they find a better place to buy it as a cheaper rate, they will start calling you a thief. And that has actually destroyed a lot of relationships, I mean strategic relationships in business. A lot of people have failed and they cannot rise again. And they like start asking, maybe my village people is after me, this and that. But they are actually the problem of their business not growing. Now, money has rules. In order for your money to grow, there are rules in money, there are rules in business, there are rules in investment. And I break it down to the 50, 30, 20 rule, which means the 50% rule, the 30% rule, and the 20% rule. 50% of your income goes into need. 30% of your income goes into wants, things you can just other kind of expenses. And then the 20% go into savings and investments. But I see that a lot of people can follow this rule when they still have time. But when you don't have time, I don't think that rule is actually applicable because there are some things you need to do, like cutting it down. Your 20% that goes into savings and investments can be taken as much as going into 30%. Then you can reduce your expenses, which is your want, from 30% to 20%. Because, for example, now you are the firstborn of a family, and then a lot of responsibilities are kept on you, and your parents are actually growing older. There's no strength, there's no job in the country. How can you sustain the family? This rule does not apply. That is why you have to make it the 50, 20, 30 rule. It won't be the 50, 30, 20 rule now. 20% of your wants, 30% go to investment. And inside that 20%, that is where your tithe comes from. And according to the 30 days business anniversary challenge, I will be teaching you on how to tithe as a business person and how to tithe as an investor so that you won't be tithing wrongly because a lot of people do not understand how to tithe. They don't understand the principle of tithing. But along the 30 days challenge, you are going to know about this. The 50% that goes into needs, that's where we talk about the food, we talk about the rent, we talked about the school fees. Those things now, you can't do without them. They are essential in life. Now, when we talk about the wants now, that talks about for those that still have time, that feel that 30% can go into their wants, and those that feel they don't have time and 20% goes into their wants. This is what want means. Your wants are the things you can just do without. Something like you just need expensive like iPhone, you need expensive jewelry, you need first 5-star hotel, lodging, foods, barbecue fish, whatever. Things that you can do without, you can live without. Those are your wants. Now, when we talk about the other 20% that goes into investment and savings, a lot of people do not understand investment. Investment has risk. Savings as well has risk. But saving has lower risks. But those who save in the bank, I don't know why you are saving your money in the bank when the bank cannot give you even up to 5% yearly returns on your savings. But there are investments you can do, and especially in fake tech platforms. There are other investments you can do, like investment in the ETFs, in the bonds, in the stock market, in commercial papers, in treasury bills. In this 30 days challenge, you are going to learn much about all these things. That is why you need to keep following and make sure you do not miss any episode of this 30 days challenge. Let me give an example of how you can do this breakdown with the 50, 30, 20 rule. Now, this is how it goes. Percent can go into the things you need. Now, example for someone who is earning a 100,000 naira salary now, and you have to break that rule. Definitely, you know that 50%, which is 50,000 of that money, is going into the things, the basic necessity of life. And again, when we talk about the 30%, which goes into the things you want, that is 30,000 naira. Then 20,000 naira, you are saving it every month. And in this point of saving, you need to understand compound interest. Most especially works for those who can invest. Because I see a lot of people jumping into investments without finding the root of saving. You discover that they will lose drastically. There is no way you just jump from step 1 to step 10. Everything is strategic. Everything has principle. Money has principle on how it works. If you don't understand how to save, you can never know how to invest. Because the kind of patience you will need in savings, if you adapt it to investment, you will discover that there are lesser pressures to be sustained. Why should you invest? Because of your future. The future waits for no one. It comes at any time. There is one thing man cannot do, and that is to pause time. Time cannot wait for anybody, no matter who you are. You're the governor, you're the president, you're the minister. It doesn't matter. The only person who have the capacity of holding time is the Father, which is God, Jehovah. But now, if you are running a business, you need to run your income as your salary. Or will I say your profits as your salary, which means your 50% goes on the things you must do. And it can still involve by multiplying your investments or multiplying your business, making it grow, buy much of the products you are selling. And then 30% goes on the things for flexing. That's just things that you just need to just do for one or two meeting of friends and the rest visitations. But some people do not understand this in business. When you are starting early in life in business, you shouldn't take that 30% that goes to your want as your own consumption. You should rather take it on strategic building of relationships. These are the times you have to talk about putting off recharge card that can be able to reach out customers and check more on them. Sometimes you can send bulk SMS to reach out to them so that they don't just come only when they want to buy. They can reach out to you, and so that from there referrals can go in. 20% will go into deliberate investments. Focus more on this deliberate investment. Put your mind that, okay, I'm starting this business, but as income is coming for the next so years, I am not touching it. It is going on to investment. So that when an error happens in the business, you still have something to take home. You still have somewhere to lay your head, and you will rest, and you will pick out from there and continue the race. And one thing again before we close for the day, never borrow to start a business, because you end up seeing that for the rest of your life you cannot finish paying those debts. Debts are not some instruments that you can just freely do at your own will. You might end up in something that you don't like. I see some lot of people, they would say, okay, I'm motivated to start this business. And then they'll just go and borrow from maybe PalmPay, Oflex, and whatever, Kuda, and other platforms. and yet they are being disturbed. Even aside that, some people borrow from cooperatives, from the church, from other places. It is not nice to borrow to start a business. One thing I know is that when God puts an idea in you, He gives you the resources to run it. He doesn't make you beg for you to run. Look at the book of Second Kings chapter 4 from verse 1 to 4. When the Elisha asked the woman that, what do you have? Which means everybody has something to reach out money. So some people, they will hear them saying they want to start business, and then capital is the major problem of the business. That is actually wrong. I do not agree with that. Capital cannot be the most difficult thing to start in a business. How to run it, your customer service, reaching out to people, delivery services, maintenance of office equipment. That if you are running an office, if it's for the shop, maintenance of the shop, are you using fridge, how are you using bills? All those things are expenses. So you have to know how to manage it. You see, a lot of people do not just know only how to have income problem. They also have management problem. They have savings problem, and they have the investment problem. According to the 30 days business and investment challenge, in one of the days, you are going to see how we are going to break this down for your easy understanding. So make sure you do not miss any episode. This is just the beginning. And as we go towards it, I believe you'll be blessed. And I know that there are godly businesses and investment for you to do. Stay tuned and remain blessed.